On the day of my graduation, my family organized a grand celebration for my brother, who had dropped out, while I stayed home by myself with my diploma. Later, Dad called just to tell me, "Yes, you have a degree, but to me, you're still a failure and a disappointment." I simply replied, "Thanks for finally voicing that." That was 5 years ago. Just yesterday, I put a plan into action that changed everything. They've sent me 15 messages pleading, "Please respond, we're sorry." I hadn't intended to share this, but honestly, I've been going crazy thinking about it, and I want to find out if anyone else has experienced something similar. I suppose it's not even the worst thing you'll encounter here, but it feels so petty. I keep reliving it in my thoughts. So, I graduated last month, which was odd in itself because they didn't host a big in-person ceremony, due to the usual reasons. And to be honest, I was okay with it. I'm not really the type who enjoys all the speeches and handshakes. My family has always emphasized the importance of education since I was a child, so I assumed we would at least have a small dinner or something. Nothing extravagant, just a casual meal. The morning started off a bit strange. My mum was in the kitchen on her phone a lot, hardly talking. Dad was in his usual mood, reading news on his tablet, barely glancing up when I entered. My brother Dwayne, not surprisingly, was still asleep. He hasn't followed any normal schedule for years. He dropped out about 2 years ago, but my parents act like it's just a part of his journey. He's always been the favored child in obvious ways, and everyone knows it. I used to think I was just being paranoid, but I get it. He's the youngest, with that silly charm. He's always joking around, making a mess, and leaving things everywhere. He's the one who can evade any consequences, while I'm the one who receives lectures about being a role model and all that. Anyway, back to that morning. I kept feeling like something was off. Mom kept checking her phone, leaving the room, and returning as if she were just responding to a group chat. She mentioned going out to get coffee and asked if I wanted anything, but didn't really wait for my answer. She left and slammed the door. Dad said nothing. I scrolled through my phone for a while, trying not to overthink it. I'm usually pretty relaxed, but I started questioning if I had done something wrong. So, I decided to check on Dwayne, as I could hear him yelling at someone on his phone from down the hallway. He was actually awake now, and I heard my name, so I thought, "What the heck?" I walked in, and he said, "Oh, I didn't realize you were home," which was odd since I rarely leave. He was in his boxers, sitting on his bed, eating leftover pizza and watching some streamer on his laptop, acting as if I wasn't even there. I asked if he had any plans for the day, and he shrugged, saying he had something going on but didn't elaborate. Fast forward a bit. I was in the living room. I had received my diploma in the mail the day before, so I placed it on the table, thinking they might want to see it or take a picture. Nobody even glanced at it. I texted my cousin Rebecca, and she replied, "Congrats." She asked if I was going to the party later, and I was puzzled, asking, "What party?" She said, "Oh, never mind, thought you knew." I thought, what on earth is happening? I let it go for a moment, assuming she meant something else. Then Mum returned with groceries, but it was just bags of snacks, not even the usual items we buy. I overheard her whispering with Dad in the hallway, and I could sense they were arguing. Mum mentioned something about timing and not ruining it. I went to the kitchen, and Dad bumped into me without even acknowledging me. When I asked what was going on, he just told me not to worry about it. Around noon, Mum said she and Dad were heading out for a bit, something about needing to pick up a gift for Grandma. I laughed and asked, "Oh, is Grandma coming over later?" She nodded but wasn't really looking at me. Dwayne was already gone, didn't say goodbye, just slammed the front door. I tried not to overthink everything but just sat there scrolling on my phone, contemplating ordering pizza and watching something silly. Things got strange when I began receiving texts from random relatives congratulating me, saying they were proud, but there was no word from my parents or Dwayne. I noticed someone tagged me on Facebook, but it was just a meme, nothing about graduation. I texted my aunt, but she didn't reply. I started feeling that weird sensation of being left out of whatever was occurring. Then I received a picture. a full group shot with balloons and a banner that read, "Congrats, Dwayne." It was so blatant. I saw my mum, my dad, Dwayne, with a cake, a bunch of relatives, and some neighbors, even the kid who broke our mailbox last month. Everyone was smiling and laughing, clearly enjoying themselves. I was just staring at my phone, thinking, is this real? Nobody even mentioned me. Not a single, "Hey, we're out. Do you want to join?" Nothing. I called my mum, but it went straight to voicemail. The same with Dad. I texted Dwayne, and he left me on red. I reached out to my cousin again, asking where the party was, and she said she thought I was coming and didn't know I wasn't invited. I replied, "Never mind, don't worry about it." I sat there watching the group chat blow up with pictures and videos, and nobody acknowledged me. I spotted my diploma on the table, right where I left it, and tried not to lose my cool. I got up and started cleaning the kitchen just to keep busy. I could hear the neighbor's dog barking next door and the TV in the background. Just normal, life stuff. I couldn't even bring myself to eat, just drank water and scrolled through TikTok for about an hour. Later that night, Dad called. I answered, thinking he might explain or apologize, but instead he just said, "So, you got your degree, but honestly, you're still a disappointment. You don't get it." Dwayne is the one who truly matters to this family. He didn't even try to soften the blow, just laid it out straight. I didn't argue. I just said, "Thanks for finally saying it out loud," and hung up. He called back, but I let it ring out. I went back to the kitchen, took my diploma, and put it in a drawer. I heard the front door open. Mum came in, but didn't even look at me, heading straight to her room and slamming the door. I considered saying something, but what was the point? I went to my room, locked the door, and texted a couple of trusted friends, asking if I was crazy for being upset. They said no. It's messed up, but what can you do? Family is family. I was just done. Right then, I decided I wouldn't let this slide. I wasn't going to just accept it and pretend everything was fine. I didn't even care about the party. It was just the way they acted, like I didn't exist, as if I was just nothing. I sat there staring at the wall, thinking. I wasn't even sad. I was just angry. That night, everything changed. I started making plans. The next morning, I woke up, and the first thing I noticed was the kitchen. I didn't expect much from these people anymore, but there was sticky stuff all over the counter, plates piled up everywhere, empty chip bags scattered, and someone had left an open soda can on the floor. Honestly, I wasn't surprised, just annoyed. Nobody said anything about last night, not even a fake apology. There was a note on the fridge saying, "Leftovers in the fridge." I didn't touch anything, just grabbed my phone and scrolled. I received a text from my cousin Rebecca, asking, "Are you good?" I replied, "I'm fine," but she kept asking if I was coming over later. I left her on red. Dwayne showed up around noon, slamming the front door. I was in the living room. He barged in, kicked off his shoes, and headed straight for the kitchen. He looked at me, smirked, and asked if I had a nice night alone. He laughed, and I just stared at him, saying nothing. He came over, tried to hit me on the shoulder like he thought it was funny, but I pushed his hand away. He called me too sensitive, as I always have been, and I didn't react. He grabbed a soda and went to his room, slamming the door. Mum and Dad returned about an hour later, with Dad carrying bags and refusing to look at me. Mum began unloading groceries and told me to move so she could access the fridge. I didn't budge, so she sighed and squeezed past. I asked if anyone was going to discuss yesterday, and she simply replied, "What's there to talk about?" Dad said nothing, just dropped the bags on the counter and left the room. I raised my voice, asking again if they seriously had a party for Dwayne while I sat there. Mum said it wasn't what I thought. He needed support since it had been a tough year for him. When I asked why nobody even informed me, she told me I was making a big deal out of nothing and that I should be happy for my brother. I said nothing and went to my room. She slammed the fridge door. I began receiving messages from cousins and some people I hardly spoke to, asking if I was upset or whatever. I guess some of them thought I was going and were realizing I hadn't been invited. A couple sent me screenshots from the family group chat where my mum was posting pictures of the party as if it were the best thing ever. Someone asked, "Where's Coulter?" and nobody replied. I didn't respond to anyone. I just scrolled through my camera roll, looking at the picture of my diploma and then at the party photos, growing more and more furious. Later, I was in the kitchen when Dwayne came out, grabbed a drink, leaned against the counter, and started talking about how proud everyone was of him. He said Mum and Dad really understood that not everyone is cut out for school and that he had real plans. I asked what those plans were, and he shrugged, saying I wouldn't understand. I told him he was just lazy and he got in my face. I pushed him back and he called me a loser, saying Dad was right about me. I told him to shut up, and when he tried to slap me, I blocked it and pushed him away. Mum came in, yelling at both of us to stop. Dad entered, telling us both to grow up, then directed me to clean up the mess. I said, I didn't make it. He insisted. Just do it. You're the responsible one. I stood there unmoving. Mom grabbed Dwayne by the arm and pulled him into another room. I could hear them whispering. Dad grabbed his keys and left the house, slamming the door. I went upstairs and began to think. I realized this wasn't new. It had always been like this. When Dwayne messes up, I get lectured. He receives money, while I'm told to save mine. Every time he makes a mistake, they say he's finding himself. When I do something right, it's nothing. I started searching through old messages and bank statements, wanting to confirm if I was losing it, or if they really had been using me. I found transfers for bills that I knew didn't go to anything I used. I recalled giving Mum cash that she claimed was for groceries, but I remembered seeing her give Dwayne money the same day. I went through my emails and discovered one from Dad months ago asking for my card info for a subscription, which I now realized was for Dwayne's expenses. I screenshotted everything. I ended up texting Rebecca, asking her if she had ever noticed anything odd about the family's financial dealings. She said honestly, yes, but she didn't want to get involved. She mentioned overhearing Mum tell her aunt that I was so responsible I could help out a bit more. It was only fair since Dwayne was struggling. I asked her if she still had a message, and she said it was just in person, but she remembered it. I thanked her and dropped it. She said, "You don't deserve this." I agreed. I started a notes document on my phone, writing down every instance I could recall of Dwayne being bailed out. The time he crashed Dad's car, and they told everyone it was a mechanical issue. The time he got caught stealing from a store, and Mum paid off the guy who owned the place. The time Dad got angry at me for not backing up my brother during a fight at a party. Everything. I realized I had lost thousands to these people. I compiled a spreadsheet of every dollar, every payment, and every time I paid for something for the house that Dwayne consumed. I wasn't even finished. My anger just grew. The next day, I told Mom I needed to talk. She was on her phone, barely, looking up. I said I knew about the money and wanted it back. She laughed, claiming I was being dramatic. I insisted I was serious, and she asked, "What are you going to do, sue your own family?" I replied, "Maybe." She put her phone down, got in my face, and said I needed to respect her. I countered, "Respect goes both ways." She slapped me. I just stared at her. She said, "You're just like your father, always picking fights." I responded, "No, I just want what's mine." She walked away and called Dad. I heard her yelling in the next room. I went to my room and started gathering my things. I texted my group chat, telling them I was moving out. A couple of friends offered me a place to crash for a bit. I began packing. Dwayne walked in, saw what I was doing, and asked if I was running away. I replied, "No, I'm done." He laughed, saying, "Whatever, you'll be back." I pushed past him, and he tried to trip me. I shoved him against the wall and he yelled, "Calls for Mom." She came running up, telling me to stop being violent. I told her to stay out of it. I took what I could: clothes, my laptop, a box of old things, and my diploma, leaving the rest. I went downstairs, and Dad was walking in the door. He saw me, with my bags, and asked where I thought I was going. I told him I was done, leaving, and wanted my money back. He laughed, saying, "You're not getting a cent. You owe this family everything." I replied, "Not anymore." He blocked the door and I pushed past him. He grabbed my arm, but I shook him off. He yelled something about being ungrateful and I slammed the door behind me and left. I stayed with a friend for a few days and then found a small place. It wasn't great, but at least it was mine. I cut off their access to my accounts, changed my passwords, switched my number on anything joint, and sent them a spreadsheet detailing what they owed me, every dollar, every date. I stated, "Don't contact me unless it's to pay me back." I blocked Dwayne everywhere, blocked Mom, and left Dad unblocked just so he could see my messages. I made it clear I wasn't fooling around anymore. I told a couple of cousins what happened. Some believed me, some claimed I was exaggerating, and others said it was just family drama. Let it go. I didn't care. I didn't even care if they believed me. I wasn't backing down. Each time I saw a transfer or a bill, I screenshotted it and sent it to Dad, stopping any payments for anything. I let them handle the fallout. I watched as the group chat became quieter, with fewer likes on their pictures and fewer comments. Rebecca texted, saying she was proud of me for standing up for myself. I replied thanks, but it wasn't over. I wasn't finished making them feel the consequences. If they wanted to treat me like an outsider, fine, but they were about to find out what that truly meant. So this is where things actually began to affect them. Seriously, not just the usual guilt trips. Honestly, at first, I wasn't even sure if they'd notice because that's how it had always been. But it was surprising how quickly people started reaching out when their comfort was disrupted. The first sign that something was changing was a random text from Mom early on a Monday. She said, "Call me when you wake up. It's important." I rolled my eyes because it's always important when they need something. I ignored it and continued with my morning routine, making coffee and checking my phone. Then my phone started buzzing. Dad, then Mom again, and then my cousin Felipe, who only texts when someone's in the hospital or needs a ride. I finally picked up for Felipe, and he said, "Your dad's freaking out about the bills. Is this about that family drama?" I replied, "I'm done paying for other people's mistakes." He fell silent, saying, "Yeah, but it's still family." I hung up. Later, I received a call from the electric company. Apparently, the house payment had bounced. I had already removed my name, but I guess Dad tried to add me back without asking. I called the company and instructed them not to allow anyone to do that without my consent. The representative was polite and said she would flag the account. I texted Dad to stop using my information, but there was no response. The next thing I knew, Dwayne was bombarding my phone with messages, which was unusual because he only texts. When he wants something, he said, "Nice move, now I can't get online for my business stuff." I didn't respond. I heard from Rebecca that he was telling everyone I was sabotaging him. She texted, saying he was just mad he couldn't mooch off me anymore. I laughed and told her, "This isn't even close to over." About 2 days later, Mum showed up at my apartment. I'm not kidding. She started banging on my door, claiming she just wanted to talk. When I opened the door, she pushed past me and stood in my kitchen as if she owned it. She said, "You need to stop this. You're ruining your brother's future and making your father look bad." I replied, "I'm just done paying for things that aren't mine." She said, "You're acting like a stranger. This isn't how family behaves." I countered, "It's not family when everyone is using you." She slapped me, but I didn't move. She glared at me and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I sat down, opened my laptop, and began reviewing every account I could think of. Anything with my name or information. I either locked it down or removed my name from old streaming, accounts, utilities, and even some memberships I barely used. I switched my phone number on all official matters, changed my bank password, and even checked my credit report for anything unusual, just in case. I started a folder with every screenshot, every odd charge, and every time they tried to pull. me back in. The family group chat became a battleground. Rebecca kept me updated. Mom posted things like, "Some people forget who raised them," and Dad threw shade about ungrateful kids. Dwayne spammed memes about betrayal. Felipe chimed in once, suggesting, "Maybe we should hear Coulter's side," but nobody responded to him. Then I received a letter from a collections agency. I opened it to find it was for a bill at the old house in my name that I had never seen. I called them, explained I'd moved out, and sent proof. They said they'd look into it, but it might take time. I texted Dad to stop using my information, warning that next time I would go to the authorities. He replied, "You wouldn't dare. We're family." I answered, "Watch me." There was no reply, so I became bolder. I emailed Dad a spreadsheet listing every dollar he owed me, every cent Dwayne cost me, and every time my information was used, without my knowledge. I captioned Mom and stated, "Pay me back, or I'll go public." I even shared it with Rebecca to ensure someone else had it. The following weekend, I went by the house to collect the last of my belongings. Dad was in the driveway and asked, "So you're really doing this?" I replied, "You made it clear I don't matter." He said, "You think you're better than us?" I said, "I just don't want to be used anymore." He stepped in my way, but I pushed past him. He grabbed my bag and I yanked it back. He shoved me and I shoved him back, saying, "You'll regret this. You're not as smart as you think." I replied, "We'll see." He slammed the door behind me. I grabbed my belongings and left without looking back. That night, I received a string of insults from Dwayne, so I blocked him. Rebecca informed me that people were starting to talk. Some of the older relatives called Mom to ask what was happening. Dad was telling everyone I had abandoned them. I sent Rebecca my folder of evidence and told her to show anyone who asked. Some believed me, and some didn't. Felipe texted saying, "This is getting ugly." I replied, "It didn't have to be." He said, "Families fight, but you're making it worse." I told him, "I'm just tired of being walked all over." Mum began showing up at my place more often, sometimes bringing food as if that would fix things. One time, she stood in my doorway crying. I told her, "Pay me back, stop using my information, and maybe we can talk." She left, slamming the door. It was all so ridiculous. Yet it felt like the first time I truly had some power. It wasn't even about the money. It was about making them understand what it felt like to be ignored, to be treated like an afterthought. Dwayne tried to get me to unblock him by sending messages through Rebecca saying, "You're ruining everything. You're jealous." I told her, "I'm not jealous. I'm just done." Utilities at the house began getting shut off, bills piled up, and Dad texted me asking, "Are you happy now?" I replied, "Not yet." The last straw was a message from Mom saying, "You've ruined us. Are you happy?" I didn't respond. I just kept gathering everything, preparing for the final move. The amusing part was that I actually started sleeping better. Not even mad, just waiting and getting everything lined up. I was about to hit them where it hurt most, and they had no idea. So this is the final update. It has been 5 years since that graduation day incident, and honestly, every year I kept waiting for things to fade away, hoping they would tire of it or I would stop caring. That never happened. I still received random texts from my mum, sometimes guilt trips, and sometimes just a meme about forgiveness. Dad called once a year, usually after Dwayne did something costly, acting as if nothing had occurred. I blocked and unblocked them so many times it was embarrassing. It was always the same cycle. They'd try to pull me back in when they needed something, then go silent when they didn't. Dwayne reached out every 6 months or so for money, then talked trash about me to anyone who would listen if I didn't play along. I heard from Rebecca that the family group chat was just chaos, half of them on my parents' side and half tired of the drama, with nobody actually trying to fix anything. I kept my distance, focusing on my own life, gathering receipts, not because I thought I would need them, but just because that's what you do when you grow up like this. Then, about 2 months ago, Rebecca sent me a screenshot from a real estate site saying, "Isn't this your parents' house? It's up for auction. The bank has repossessed it." At first, I didn't react. I just asked her, "Are you sure?" She confirmed it. I looked it up and saw the same auction details. I didn't say anything for a while. I just kept refreshing the page. I knew they had no idea I had seen it. About 2 weeks later, Dad called from a new number. I ignored it, but he left a voicemail. He sounded weary, much older than I remembered, saying, "I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but we need help. The bank is taking the house. Dwayne's out of work. Your mum is sick with worry. We just need a little support to get back on our feet." I listened to the message 3 times. For the first time in years, I felt nothing. Not mad, not sad, just done. The next day, Mom texted, pleading, "Please call us. Things are bad. We need you." I ignored her too. Dwayne bombarded my phone with messages, half angry and half begging, saying, "You can't let them take the house. You're cruel. You're supposed to be the smart one." I muted the thread. That's when I decided to go all in. I called the auction company and asked what was needed to bid. It turned out it wasn't as difficult as I had thought. I gathered my paperwork and placed a bid just high enough to win. I didn't tell Rebecca. I kept it to myself, just to see if I could actually do it. On the day of the auction, I showed up and watched as a couple of investors tried to lowball it, but I kept going. Nobody recognized me, not even the person running the auction. I won the bid, signed the papers, and walked out with the keys and the deed. A few days later, Dad called again, saying, "We have to be out by the end of the month. Can you help us find a place?" Mum was crying in the background, and Dwayne was yelling. I replied, "I bought the house." Silence followed. Then Dad said, "What?" I repeated, "Yeah, it's mine now. I'm not helping you stay. You made your choices." Dwayne grabbed the phone, yelling, "You can't do this. You're scum. You're not family." I told him, "You never treated me like family." Dad tried to talk over him, insisting, "You don't mean this. You're just angry." I told them, "I'm not angry. I just don't care anymore." They tried everything. Mom showed up at my place, banging on the door, pleading, "Please just let us stay until we figure it out." I told her, "You have 30 days. Dwayne attempted to block my car in the driveway and tried to shove me when I got out. I shoved him back. He threw his phone on the ground and stormed off. Dad stood there with his arms crossed, saying, "You'll regret this. You're still a disappointment." I responded, "At least I'm not homeless," because I expected someone else to save me. I handed them the legal notice like anyone else. No special treatment, no more handouts. I didn't yell or argue. I just handed over the paperwork and walked away. Mum slammed the door behind me. 30 days passed, and they actually left. I drove by the house and saw it was empty. No note, nothing left behind except a couple of broken chairs and some trash in the yard. I received a call from Rebecca who said, "You actually did it." I replied, "Yeah." She asked how I felt, and I said, "Lighter, I guess." She laughed, saying, "You know they're telling everyone you trick them." I replied, "Let them." The next morning, I checked my phone and found 15 unread texts, all from Mom, Dad, and Dwayne, pleading, "Please answer. We're sorry. Can we talk? We need a second chance. You don't understand. It's not what you think. We love you. Just please answer." I didn't respond. I just scrolled through, screenshotting the entire thread and then archiving it. I rented the house to a family I would never meet, never going back or seeking closure. I didn't tell anyone outside of Rebecca and my friends. I saw one last Facebook post from Mum about losing everything but still having hope. I didn't react. So that's it. 5 years, 1,000 broken promises, and now they finally understand what it feels like to be excluded, ignored, and powerless. I didn't do anything illegal. I didn't even raise my voice. I simply let them experience what they had served me for years. I'm not sorry, not even a little. The crazy part is, I still get those texts every few weeks. I just delete them. I'm not their backup plan anymore.